The great hall on Viridian Prime buzzed with voices from across the galaxy. Thousands of beings filled the massive space, their different forms creating a sea of colors and shapes. Some walked on two legs like humans, others floated in the air, and a few rolled along the polished floor on metal wheels. Wu Taimin stood backstage checking his speech one last time. The tall human ambassador had done this many times before, but today felt different. Today he would ask the galaxy to accept his biggest idea yet, the Universal Cooperation Doctrine. It was a plan to bring all species together as true equals, not just trading partners. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" Park So-young asked, adjusting her translation device. She had worked with Taimin for 10 years and could read his moods better than anyone. "As ready as I can be," Taimin smiled. His deep voice was calm, but So-young noticed his hands shake slightly as he held his papers. "Do you think they will listen?" So-young looked through the curtain at the crowd. She saw the proud Vask delegation sitting in their special section, their scaled faces showing no emotion. The bird-like ethereals perched on their floating platforms, wings folded neatly. The rock-like crystalline beings sat perfectly still, looking like statues. "They always listen to you," she said. "You have that gift." It was true. In 15 years as Earth's chief ambassador, Taimin had turned enemies into friends more times than anyone could count. He spoke softly but carried wisdom that made even the oldest species pay attention. The media called him the gentle giant of Terra because of his height and kind nature. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, the announcer's voice filled the hall. "Please welcome Ambassador Wu Taimin of Earth." Taimin walked onto the stage, his long strides carrying him to the podium. The crowd grew quiet. Even those who disagreed with human ideas respected this man. He had saved 3 wars from starting just by talking to the right people at the right time. "Friends," Taimin began, his voice reaching every corner of the hall, "for 100 years our species have met here to talk about peace. We have made trade deals. We have stopped fights before they became wars. We have learned to live side by side in this vast galaxy." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "But I believe we can do more. Much more." In the Vask section, General Kreeth shifted in his seat. His yellow eyes focused on the human with growing anger. Next to him, Admiral Vorth whispered something, in their harsh language. They had not come here to listen to human dreams of equality. "Today, I propose the Universal Cooperation Doctrine," Taimin continued. "Not just peace between our worlds, but true partnership, shared knowledge, shared exploration, shared protection of all life in our galaxy." The ethereal delegation began chirping softly among themselves. This was bigger than any human proposal before. The crystalline beings remained still, but small. Lights flickered in their crystal bodies, a sign they were thinking hard. "Some of you think humans are too young, too new to the galaxy to suggest such things," Taimin said with a gentle smile. "You are right. We are young. But sometimes young eyes see possibilities that old eyes have forgotten." From her position, backstage, So-young watched the crowd's reaction. Some beings leaned forward with interest. Others sat back with doubt. But everyone was listening. That was Taimin's power. He made people want to hear what he had to say. "Imagine," Taimin said, raising his hands, "a galaxy where a sick child on any world can receive medicine from any other world. Where a natural disaster brings help from dozens of species, not just neighbors. Where our children learn together, grow together, and build something greater than any of us could build alone." In the shadows near the side entrance, a figure adjusted something on their arm. The small device hummed quietly, charging up. They had waited weeks for this moment, hidden among the maintenance staff. "This doctrine is not about human leadership," Taimin continued. "It is about shared leadership, about combining the wisdom of the ancients with the energy of the young, about proving that different does not mean enemy." General Kreeth's claws dug into his chair arms. This human spoke of things that would destroy the natural order. The Vask Empire had ruled their section of space for 3,000 years. The Hegemony Coalition kept the lesser species in line. That was how things should be. "I know some of you fear change," Taemin said, as if reading their thoughts. Change is scary. It is easier to keep things as they are. But keeping things the same when they could be better is not wisdom. It is waste. The hidden figure raised their arm. The device was fully charged now, humming with deadly energy. One shot would end this dangerous talk forever. The universe is vast and full of wonders we have not yet discovered, Taemin said, his voice growing stronger with passion. But it is also full of dangers we cannot face alone. Together, we are stronger than any threat. Together, we can build something beautiful. So Young smiled as she watched him. This was Taemin at his best, painting pictures with words that made impossible things seem possible. So I ask you, Taemin said, opening his arms wide. Join us, not as followers, not as leaders, but as partners in the greatest adventure any of us will ever know. The plasma bolt came from the side, a bright, blue line of death that crossed the stage in silence. It hit Taemin in the chest, throwing him backward. He crashed to the floor, his papers scattered around him like falling snow. The hall erupted in chaos. Beings screamed, ran, or froze in shock. Security forces rushed toward the stage while others tried to find the shooter. But it was too late. The figure had already disappeared into the panicking crowd. So Young reached Taemin first, dropping to her knees beside him. His breathing was shallow, his eyes unfocused. The plasma had burned a hole through his chest that no medicine could fix. "Ambassador," she whispered, taking his hand. "Hold on. Help is coming." Taemin looked up at her, blood on his lips. His voice was barely a whisper. "Tell them," he said, each word an effort. "Tell them. Humanity remembers kindness, but we never forget betrayal." His eyes closed for the last time. So Young knelt there holding his hand as security officers ran past and medical teams pushed through the crowd. Around them, the great hall filled with voices speaking in dozens of languages, all asking the same question. Who would kill the one man who wanted to unite the galaxy? In their special section, the Vask delegation was already leaving. General Lai, Kreeth allowed himself a small smile as they walked toward their ship. The dangerous human was dead. Now things could go back to the way they should be. He had no idea what he had just unleashed. Captain Kim Jae-won was drinking coffee in his ship's command center when the message arrived. The UES Determination was 3 days out from Earth, patrolling the quiet space near the outer colonies. It had been a peaceful run, the kind Jae-won usually enjoyed after 20 years of military service. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "priority message from Fleet Command, marked urgent." Jae-won set down his cup and walked over. Lieutenant Park Min-ho handed him the data pad with a worried expression. "Sir, you should read this privately." The captain took the pad to his ready room and sealed the door. What he read made his hands shake. Ambassador Wu Tae-min was dead, killed by an assassin during his speech at the Peace Summit. The killer had escaped. No arrests had been made. Jae-won sat down heavily in his chair. He had served under Taemin during the First Contact War, back when humans first met the other species. The ambassador had been a young diplomatic officer then. But even early on, he showed the gift for making enemies into friends. "Damn it, Taemin," Jae-won whispered to the empty room. "They got you." He read the message again, looking for details. The plasma bolt had come from the side of the hall. Security cameras showed nothing useful. The Galactic Council was calling for an investigation, but the Hegemony Coalition was blocking any real action. Jae-won stood up and looked out the window at the stars. Something had changed in him when he read those words. Not hope. He still believed humans could find justice. But the part of him that wanted to solve things peacefully, the part Taemin had nurtured, was gone now. He opened his communications panel. "All hands, this is the captain. Report to your duty stations immediately. We are changing course for Earth, maximum speed." On Earth, Dr. Lee Min-ji locked herself in her laboratory deep under the Terra Defense Research Center. She had been working late when the news broke, trying to finish her latest project, a medical scanner that could heal burns in minutes instead of weeks. Now she sat staring at the device, tears running down her face. She had known Taemin since college, had worked with him to develop peaceful uses for advanced technology. Everything she built was meant to help, to heal, to protect without harming. Minji wiped her eyes and pulled up her computer files. Her healing scanner used focused energy beams to repair damaged tissue. But energy that could heal could also destroy, if you change the settings just right. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, altering code and adjusting power levels. By morning, her healing device had become something else entirely, a weapon that could cut through the strongest armor ever made. She was not the only one making such changes. Admiral Cho Sung-ho called an emergency meeting at Fleet Command on Nide, Luna. The moon base's main conference room filled with humanity's top military minds. General Yoon Da-yoon arrived from the Mars garrison. Admiral Seo Jin-wook came from the Deep Space Patrol fleet. Colonel Han Bo-ram left her training base on Europa. They sat around the metal table in complete silence for a full minute. These men and women had fought together, planned together, and kept Earth safe together for decades. They all knew what Taemin's death meant. "Recommendations?" Sung-ho asked finally. "We cannot let this stand," General Daeun said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with controlled anger. "They killed our best hope for peace. That means they chose war. The Hegemony Coalition controls 40% of the Galactic Council votes," Admiral Jin-wook pointed out. "They will block any investigation. There will be no justice through proper channels." Colonel Bo-ram leaned forward. "Then we make our own justice." "Careful," Sung-ho warned. "We are talking about war with species that have been spacefaring for thousands of years. They have bigger fleets, more ships, more experience." "They also think they know us," Bo-ram replied. "They think humans are soft, peace-loving. They think killing Taemin will make us back down." "Will it?" Daeun asked. The room fell silent again. Each officer thought about the same thing. Wu Taemin lying dead on that stage, killed for trying to bring the galaxy together. "No," Sung-ho said finally. "It will not." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The great chamber on Central Station buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from hundreds of species demanded answers, justice, action. Elder Prime Veltar of the Crystalline Concordat spoke in his slow, deep voice. "A crime has been committed against all of us." Ambassador Taemin spoke for peace. His death is an attack on peace itself. "Words," General Kreith replied from the Vask section. "The human is dead. That is unfortunate, but we must focus on keeping order in the galaxy. Some species need stronger guidance than others." The ethereal representative, Songwing Veldia, spread her bright feathers in anger. "You speak as if his death means nothing, as if justice means nothing." "Justice?" Admiral Vorth of the Vask laughed, a harsh sound. "The humans are children, playing with adult concepts. They will mourn their lost ambassador and then return to their small corner of space where they belong." "I would not be so sure," said Trader Prime Kethvan of the United Guilds. His people did business with everyone and heard all the rumors. "The humans have withdrawn all their diplomatic staff. They are not answering messages. Their merchant ships are returning to human space." "Good," Kreith said. "Let them hide." But some in the chamber were not so confident. The silence from human space was not the silence of fear. It felt like something else entirely. Back on Earth, President Nam Young-soo signed a series of executive orders that would change everything. Military production increased to wartime levels. All diplomatic missions were recalled. The research divisions were given unlimited budgets and told to work on anything that might give humanity an edge. The orders were signed in secret and carried out quietly. To the galaxy, it looked like humanity was simply pulling back in grief, but inside human space, something was building. Captain Jae-won arrived at Earth 3 days later. He was not the same man who had left on routine patrol. None of them were the same anymore. The killing of Taemin had changed something fundamental in the human spirit. As his ship docked at Luna Station, Jae-won looked out at the dozens of other vessels arriving from across human space. Warships, cargo haulers, research vessels, all coming home. all preparing for what was to come. He thought about Taimin's last words, the ones Park So-young had shared with the fleet. Humanity remembers kindness, but we never forget betrayal. The ambassador had been right about that. Humans did remember kindness. They had spent 15 years being kind to species that saw them as inferior. They had shared their technology, their food, their friendship, but they also never forgot betrayal. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between those two things. In the depths of space, human ships moved quietly toward the borders of hegemony, territory. They carried no messages of war, sent no threats or demands. They simply positioned themselves and waited. The silence from human space continued. But now it was not the silence of mourning. It was the silence of predators choosing their moment to strike. 6 months passed after Ambassador Taimin's death. The galaxy had almost forgotten about the quiet humans in their corner of space. Trade routes ran normally. The Hegemony Coalition continued to control their territory with an iron fist. Life went on as if nothing had changed. Then the accident started. The first was a vast cargo ship carrying weapons to their frontier colonies. The navigation computer simply stopped working while the ship traveled through empty space. The crew found themselves stranded, floating helplessly between stars. It took 3 weeks for a rescue ship to find them. By then, their food had run out and half the crew was sick. Technical failure, the official report said. Old equipment, poor maintenance. The second accident happened to a Hegemony communication relay station. The massive structure, built to send messages across dozens of star systems, began broadcasting embarrassing private conversations between Vask generals. Military secrets, personal insults, and corruption details flooded the networks for 6 hours before engineers could shut it down. Computer virus, they announced. Unknown origin. Admiral Vorth was eating dinner in his private quarters when his personal computer activated itself and began playing recordings of his conversations with smugglers and arms dealers. The recording showed him taking bribes and selling military equipment on the black market. Within hours, the recordings were spreading across every major news network in the galaxy. "Sabotage," he shouted at his security chief. "Someone is targeting us." But who? The humans had disappeared from galactic affairs completely. They sent no ships through hegemony space, made no diplomatic contacts, issued no statements. It was as if they had simply given up and gone home. General Kreeth stood in the command center of the Vask Empire's greatest orbital shipyard, watching his engineers try to figure out what had gone wrong. The massive facility, capable of building 50 warships at once, had suffered a cascade of system failures. Power plants overloaded. Construction robots went crazy and began tearing apart half-finished ships. The main computer started deleting vital design files. "How long to fix it?" he demanded. "Years, sir," the chief engineer replied, looking terrified. "Maybe decades. We will have to rebuild everything from scratch." "That is impossible. These are simple computer problems." "No, sir, they are not simple. Whoever did this understands our systems better than we do. They knew exactly which systems to target for maximum damage. This was not random sabotage. This was surgical." Behind these accidents was Agent Kang Yujin and his team from the Human Intelligence Division. They had spent months learning every detail of hegemony technology, finding weaknesses that even the builders did not know existed. Kang sat in a hidden facility on a small moon, watching status reports flow across his screens. His team of specialists worked around the clock, Lim Hyo-jung handling computer infiltration, Park Min-ho managing communication intercepts, and dozens of others carrying out the most sophisticated intelligence operation in human history. Target 17 is complete, Hyo-jung reported. The Vask Second Fleet's main supply depot just lost all its inventory records. They have no idea what they have in storage, or where anything is located. Good, Kang replied. What about the hegemony? Banking networks? Still working on those, Min-ho answered. Their financial systems are heavily protected, but I found something interesting in their military communications. They are planning to demand tribute from the outer colonies again. Kang smiled without humor. Make sure those demands get sent to the galactic news networks instead of the colonies. Q. Beauty of their operation was its subtlety. Nothing they did looked like an attack. Everything appeared to be technical failures, equipment breakdowns, or operator errors. The hegemony leaders knew they were under assault, but they could not prove it or explain how it was being done. Then Admiral Moon Jae-seok decided that subtlety had served its purpose. The UES Tai Min's Will dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Vask territory, alone and apparently unafraid. The ship was one of humanity's newest cruisers, sleek and fast but much smaller than the massive Vask warships that soon surrounded it. Unknown vessel, came the transmission from the Vask fleet commander. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. This is Admiral Moon Jae-seok of the Human Defense Fleet, came the calm reply. I am here on official business. Fleet Commander Zarak stared at his screen in disbelief. A single human ship had entered their territory and was making demands. Admiral, you are outnumbered 12-1. Surrender your vessel immediately or we will destroy you. You killed our ambassador, Jae-seok replied, his voice carrying across the communication channel. We are here to collect the debt. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The Battle of Proxima Drift lasted only 43 minutes, but it changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about human capabilities. The Tai Min's Will moved like nothing the Vask had ever seen. Instead of the clumsy straight-line attacks they expected, the human ship danced between their formations like a predator playing with its prey. Its weapons were surgical, precise, and devastatingly effective. Dr. Lee Minji's new quantum disruptors cut through Vask armor like it was paper. The ship's revolutionary shielding system, developed from her healing technology, absorbed and redirected energy attacks back at their sources. But most importantly, the human crew fought with a precision and coordination that seemed impossible. Every movement was planned. Every shot was calculated. The Tai Min's Will struck at weak points the Vask did not even know they had, using information gathered by Kang Yu-jin's intelligence teams over months of careful observation. One by one, the Vask ships were disabled. Not destroyed. That would have been wasteful. Instead, their weapons were surgically removed, their engines disabled, their communication systems scrambled. They were left floating helplessly, alive, but utterly defeated. When the last Vask ship was neutralized, Admiral Jae-seok opened a general broadcast to the survivors. You wanted to know what humanity learned in 15 years of peace, he said. We learned about all of you. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your technologies, your tactics. You taught us everything we needed to know to defeat you. He paused, letting that sink in. This is just the beginning. Every species that supported our ambassador's murder will face justice. Every leader who thought killing one good man would make us afraid will learn they were wrong. You are making a mistake, Commander Zarak transmitted from his disabled flagship. The Hegemony Coalition has thousands of ships, hundreds of worlds. You cannot fight us all. Watch us, Jae-seok replied. The transmission ended. The Tai Min's Will jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the Vask fleet crippled but alive to carry their message home. Within hours, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. A single human ship had defeated 12 Vask vessels without taking significant damage. Military experts called it impossible. Politicians called it an act of war. General Kreeth called it the beginning of the end for human civilization. Mobilize everything, he ordered his staff. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The humans want a war. We will give them a war that will wipe their species from the galaxy. But in the crystal cities of the Concordat, Elder Prime Veltar was having different thoughts. His people had watched humans for decades, had seen their capacity for both kindness and determination. The destruction at Proxima Drift was not random violence. It was controlled, purposeful, and carried out with a precision that spoke of long planning. Perhaps, he told his council, we should have listened more carefully to Ambassador Tai Min's words about human nature. The ethereal collective was even more direct. Songwing Veldia issued a public statement that evening. The hegemony coalition has awakened something they do not understand, she declared. Humans do not seek war, but when war is forced upon them, they fight like no other species we have known. We call upon all civilized beings to distance themselves from this madness before it consumes us all. But the hegemony leaders were not listening to warnings. They were busy preparing for what they believed would be the final battle against the upstart humans. They had no idea that humanity was just getting started. The massive hegemony fleet gathered at Kethvar like a storm cloud of metal and death. Over 3,000 ships from 4 different species filled the space around the ancient fortress world. Vast battleships bristled with weapons. Hegemony. Cruisers moved in perfect formations. Support vessels carried enough firepower to level planets. General Kreeth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Dominator, and smiled with satisfaction. This was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. No power in the known universe could stand against it. The humans sent a diplomatic message, his communication officer reported. They wished to discuss surrender terms. Ignore it, Kreeth ordered. We are past the time for talk. Today we remind the galaxy why the ancient races rule and the young ones obey. But Admiral No Soo-jin, commanding the human fleet from her flagship UES Determination, had not sent any message about surrender. She watched the enemy formations through her tactical display and allowed herself a cold smile. 400 ships against 3,000. Her second-in-command, Captain Lee Dong-hwan, observed. The odds are not good. The odds are perfect, Soo-jin replied. Big fleets are hard to coordinate. Big fleets have big blind spots, and big fleets make excellent targets. Her fleet was spread across a wide area, each ship group positioned with mathematical precision. They had been practicing these formations for months, using battle plans developed by Colonel Baek Jun-ho and tested in hundreds of simulations. All ships, this is Admiral Soo-jin, she announced across the fleet communication network. Today we fight not just for victory, but for justice. Every shot you fire carries the memory of Ambassador Taemin. Every enemy ship you disable brings us closer to the peace he died trying to create. The human fleet moved toward Kethvar like a pack of wolves approaching a herd of cattle. Small, fast, and absolutely deadly. The hegemony commanders laughed when they saw the approaching human force. 3,000 ships against 400? This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. All vessels attack formation, General Kreeth commanded. Destroy every human ship. Leave no survivors. The massive hegemony fleet began its advance, moving in the traditional battle formation they had used for centuries. The largest ships, in front smaller vessels supporting from behind, fighters swarming around the edges like angry insects. It was exactly what the humans had expected them to do. Quantum disruptors online, Captain Kim Hyejin reported from the UES Swift Justice. Targeting the lead dreadnought. Confirmed, came responses from dozens of human ships. Every vessel in the fleet carried the new weapons Dr. Lee Min-ji had developed. Weapons that could cut through any known armor like a knife through soft bread. Fire, Admiral Soo-jin ordered. The first salvo from the human fleet lit up space like a deadly light show. Brilliant beams of quantum energy reached across the void and struck the lead hegemony ships with surgical precision. Instead of trying to destroy the massive vessels, the humans targeted specific systems, weapons, engines, command centers. The hegemony dreadnought Eternal Victory, pride of the Vask fleet, suddenly found itself spinning helplessly as its engine. Pods were severed by quantum fire. The cruiser Bloodfang lost all its weapons in a single coordinated strike. The destroyer Darkwing exploded when its ammunition storage was hit. Impossible, General Kreeth whispered as he watched his fleet's front line crumble. How are they doing this? The answer was coordination beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every human ship was connected to every other through quantum communication networks that allowed them to share information instantly. When one ship found a target's weakness, all ships knew about it immediately. Captain Park Soo-ho, commanding the UES Lightning Strike, received targeting data from 17 other ships in real time. His quantum disruptors found the exact spot, where the enemy cruiser's shields were weakest, and cut through its armor like it was not even there. Target disabled, he reported, moving to secondary objective. The human ships did not fight like individual vessels. They fought like parts of a single organism, each one perfectly coordinated with all the others. When hegemony ships tried to surround small human groups, they found themselves caught in crossfires from directions they had not even considered. "Sir," Admiral Vorth reported to General Kreith, his voice tight with panic. "We have lost 60 ships in the first hour. Our formations are breaking apart." "How many humans have we destroyed?" Kreith demanded. 3 ships confirmed destroyed. Maybe 2 more damaged. Kreith stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His massive fleet was being carved apart by a force less than 1/7 its size. The Battle of Kethvar lasted 3 days, but the outcome was decided in the first 6 hours. The humans had not just superior weapons and coordination, they had something the hegemony forces lacked entirely. They had a reason to fight that went beyond orders or conquest. Lieutenant Yoon Mi-jung, gunner on the UES Righteous Fury, thought about Ambassador Tae-min every time she fired her weapons. She remembered his gentle voice speaking of peace and cooperation. The hegemony had killed that voice, and now they would pay the price. "Another cruiser down," she reported to her captain. "That is 15 for our ship alone." Captain Oh Jin-woo nodded grimly. Tae-min would not have wanted this, he said quietly, but he would have understood why it was necessary. By the end of the second day, the hegemony fleet was in full retreat. General Kreith, his flagship badly damaged and most of his fleet destroyed or disabled, sent a desperate message to his remaining ships. "Fall back to the outer defense line," he ordered. "Regroup and call for reinforcements." But there would be no reinforcements. Across hegemony space, other human fleets were striking at military bases, supply depots, and communication centers. The attacks were coordinated with the same deadly precision that had shattered the main fleet at Kethvar. Admiral Su-jin stood on her bridge, watching the enemy ships flee into hyperspace. Around her, the space near Kethvar was filled with floating debris and disabled vessels, but she took no pleasure in the destruction. "Casualty report," she requested. 12 ships lost, Captain Lee reported. 1,800 crew members killed in action. Su-jin closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of the families who would receive terrible news today. Every death was a tragedy, even in victory. "Signal the rescue ships," she ordered. "Begin recovery operations for all survivors, human and alien, alike." This was the difference between human warfare and hegemony warfare. The humans fought with deadly efficiency, but they did not fight with cruelty. Enemy crews who surrendered were treated well. Wounded aliens received the same medical care as wounded humans. When General Kreith heard about this, he was confused. "Why do they help our people?" he asked Admiral Vorth. "We are enemies." "I do not know," Vorth replied. "Perhaps they are weak after all." But Elder Prime Veltar of the Crystalline Concordat understood what the hegemony leaders did not. He sent a private message to Admiral Su-jin after the battle. "Your victory was magnificent," his message said, "but your mercy was even more impressive. You fight like warriors but act like civilized beings. Ambassador Tae-min would be proud." Su-jin smiled when she read those words. That was exactly what she had hoped to hear. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. The mighty hegemony coalition, rulers of space for thousands of years, had been utterly defeated by the young humans. Their fleet of 3,000 ships had been reduced to scattered wreckage and fleeing survivors. The moderate species of the galaxy began to take notice. The Ethereal Collective issued a statement supporting human actions as justified self-defense. The United Trader Guilds quietly began shifting their business away from hegemony space and toward human territory. Even some members of the hegemony coalition began to have doubts. The reptilian Eschatar, junior partners in the alliance, sent secret messages to human diplomats asking about surrender terms. But the core hegemony leadership was not ready to give up. General Kreith, his pride wounded more than his fleet, began planning one final strike. "They may have destroyed our main force," he told his remaining commanders, but they cannot protect their homeworld and fight everywhere at once. We will strike at Earth itself and end this war with one decisive blow. It was the worst mistake he could have made, because Admiral Su Jin was not the only human commander with a fleet. And Earth was not as defenseless as the hegemony believed. When the call went out across human space, "They are coming for Earth," the response was immediate and overwhelming. Every human ship, from the largest dreadnought to the smallest patrol vessel, began moving toward the Sol system. Colonists who had never seen their homeworld prepared to die defending it. Military veterans came out of retirement. Civilian volunteers signed up for dangerous missions. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened the human home. And General Kreith was about to discover that some mistakes cannot be survived. The attack on Earth never came. General Kreith's remaining fleet, already battered from the disaster at Kethavar, found their path blocked at every turn. Human forces seemed to appear from nowhere, striking with the same deadly precision that had destroyed the main hegemony fleet. Each time Kreith tried to advance toward the Sol system, another group of his ships was disabled or destroyed. What he did not know was that Fleet Admiral Jiang Min-su had been waiting for exactly this moment. The largest human armada ever assembled sat cloaked in the empty space between star systems, watching every move the hegemony made. "He is walking into our trap perfectly," Admiral Park Hai-young observed from her position aboard the UES Vengeance. "Every time he changes course, we push him exactly where we want him to go." Jiang smiled grimly as he watched the tactical display. Kreith thinks like a traditional military commander. He sees obstacles and tries to go around them. He does not realize that we are herding him toward his final destination. That destination was Vask Prime, the capital world of the Vask Empire, and the heart of hegemony power. For months, human intelligence teams had been studying the planet's defenses, finding weaknesses, preparing for this moment. Agent Kang Yu-jin and his specialists had done their work well. When the human fleet finally arrived at Vask Prime, they knew the location of every defense platform, every shield generator, every hidden weapon that protected the planet. "This is Fleet Admiral Jiang Min-su of the Human Defense Fleet," came the broadcast that reached every corner of the Vask system. "We are here to arrest the criminals responsible for the murder of Ambassador Wu Taemin. Surrender peacefully and you will be treated with justice. Resist and face the consequences." The response from Vask Prime was immediate and predictable. Every defensive weapon in the system opened fire on the approaching human fleet. Thousands of missiles and energy beams reached out toward the human ships like the claws of an angry beast. But the humans were ready for this too. The first wave of human vessels were not warships at all, but specialized electronic warfare platforms, developed by Dr. Lee Minji's research teams. They released clouds of microscopic devices that interfered with targeting systems, jammed communications, and turned the planet's own defenses against each other. "Defense grid is confused," reported Captain Song Ji-hoon from his electronic warfare ship. "Their missiles are attacking their own platforms. Energy weapons cannot lock onto targets." Within minutes, the mighty defenses of Vask Prime were reduced to chaos. Weapons fired wildly in all directions. Shield generators overloaded and shut down. Communication networks collapsed under the weight of false signals and scrambled data. Then the real attack began. The human fleet moved through the confused defenses like ghosts, striking only at military targets with surgical precision. Orbital weapons platforms were disabled, not destroyed. Military bases were captured, not leveled. Even the planetary shield generators were shut down rather than blown up. General Kreith, watching from his command bunker deep under the planet's surface, could not believe what he was seeing. The humans had the power to destroy everything, but they were choosing restraint instead. "Why do they not simply bomb us from orbit?" he demanded of his staff. They could end this war in minutes. Admiral Vorth, his face pale with fear, had the answer. "Because they are not here for conquest, General. They are here for justice." The ground assault that followed was unlike anything in galactic military history. Human troops, supported by defectors from other species who had been horrified by Taemin's murder, advanced on every major military installation simultaneously. Their equipment was superior, their tactics were flawless, and their determination was absolute. But more importantly, they fought with honor. Colonel Hanbo Ram led the assault on the main military command center. Her troops moved through the building like professional soldiers, not conquerors. Enemy soldiers who surrendered were treated well. Wounded aliens received immediate medical care. Civilian areas were avoided completely. Secure the command level, she ordered her squads. Watch for booby traps, but remember, we are here to capture war criminals, not to destroy this planet. When her troops finally reached General Kreeth's command bunker, they found him sitting at his desk, staring at screens showing the complete collapse of his forces. The mighty Vask military, terror of the galaxy for 3,000 years, had been defeated in less than 6 hours. General Kreeth, Colonel Boram said formally, you are under arrest for the murder of Ambassador Wu Taemin and crimes against peace. Kreeth looked up at her with a mixture of anger and confusion. You have won, he said. Why do you not simply kill me and be done with it? Because, Boram replied, we are not you. The War Crimes Tribunal that followed became a model for galactic justice. Held on neutral ground at the crystalline Concordat's capital world, it brought together judges from dozens of species to examine the evidence against the hegemony leadership. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy, allowing every civilized being to watch as the truth about Taemin's assassination was revealed. The evidence was overwhelming. Communication intercepts, financial records, witness testimony from hegemony officers who could no longer stomach their leader's crimes. General Kreeth, Admiral Vorth, and a dozen other high-ranking officials were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. Their subordinates, who had simply followed orders, were given lighter sentences and the chance to return to their families. But the most important moment came when Park So-young, now serving as humanity's senior ambassador, addressed the tribunal. Ambassador, Taemin believed that different species could work together as equals, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy through live broadcasts. His murderers thought that killing him would end that dream. Instead, they proved that some ideals are worth fighting for. She paused, looking directly at the camera that would carry her words across space. Today, we establish a new principle. For galactic civilization, those who choose peace will find humanity ready to be their friend and partner. Those who choose violence will find humanity ready to defend what is right, no matter the cost. The trial's conclusion led to the most significant political change in galactic history. The old Galactic Council, dominated by ancient species and traditional power structures, was dissolved. In its place, the new Galactic Assembly was established with equal representation for all species, regardless of age or military power. President Nam Young-soo, speaking at the Assembly's first session, announced the new Taemin doctrine that would guide human foreign policy. We will extend our hand in friendship to all who wish peace, he declared. We will share our knowledge, our resources, and our protection with any species that respects the rights of others. But let no one mistake our kindness for weakness or our desire for peace as inability to defend ourselves and our friends. The changes went far beyond politics. The hegemony's collapse opened trade routes that had been closed for centuries. Scientific cooperation flourished as human researchers shared their quantum technology while learning ancient secrets from the elder races. Cultural exchange programs brought young beings from dozens of worlds to study together on Earth and other planets. The ethereal collective became humanity's closest allies, their poets and philosophers finding common ground with human artists and thinkers. The crystalline Concordat shared their vast libraries of knowledge in exchange for human medical technology. Even former hegemony species like the Eschatar found new prosperity as equals rather than subjects. 5 years after Taemin's death, the Wu Taemin Memorial Station was dedicated at the center of the new Galactic Assembly. The massive structure, built with contributions from over 100 species, served both as a meeting place for galactic leaders and as a symbol of unity. Park So-young, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Assembly, stood before the gathered representatives for the dedication ceremony. The hall was filled with beings of every shape and size imaginable, all united in honoring the memory of a man who had died, trying to bring them together. Ambassador Taemin once said that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice, she began. Today we dedicate this station not just to his memory, but to the principle he died defending, that all sapient beings deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. She looked out at the sea of faces, seeing former enemies sitting next to new friends, ancient rivals working together on common problems. The galaxy learned something important from humanity's response to our ambassador's murder, she continued. We learned that when you kill someone's hope, you do not break their spirit. You forge something infinitely more dangerous, their resolve. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for all those lost in the war, followed by the lighting of the eternal flame of peace, a quantum torch that would burn forever as a reminder of the cost of justice and the value of cooperation. As the assembled representatives filed out of the hall, many stopped to read the inscription carved into the memorial wall. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of galactic history. Ambassador Wu Taiman, 2387-2461. He dreamed of a galaxy where all beings could work together in peace. His death showed us that some dreams are worth any sacrifice to achieve.